اصحى يا نايم وحد الدايم لا إله إلا الله رمضان كريم.
Welcome everyone to the Ramadan Revival Podcast. A big Ramadan Mubarak to you, and may Allah accept from me and you, Ameen. This is Khadija, your host. Sit back, join us during your suhoor or iftar, and come on a journey with us. Grab your cup of halal goodness when you break your fast and join us for the Ramadan Revival Podcast. Hey ladies, I hope everyone's Ramadan is going well so far, insha'Allah. As you know, I decided to scrap the Ramadan Revival episodes, which I pre-recorded before Ramadan, and mainly due to my poor planning and realizing these episodes would be more ideal to share pre-Ramadan, I decided to sort of maybe leave them off for next year, insha'Allah. We'll see about that. Anyways, so that being said, there is still a Discord group going on and the Facebook group, as well as a live cast on the Podbean app. My podcast hosting site allows me to do live shows where I basically sit in with sisters and we just chat about Ramadan and random topics. It's a lot of fun, it's casual, very laid back, and it sort of lets you feel like you're with us but just not physically with us. So it's perfect to sort of leave on when you're having iftar or suhoor, whatever or whenever. So also you can even chat with us in the chat box while we are talking, and we read your comments and interact with you live. You can also call in as well as be a part of the live chat. So here is the very first live cast published into an episode. I hope you guys can join us next time, insha'Allah.
How is everybody's Ramadan going?
Alhamdulillah, it's okay.
Oh, Fatima, how was the
weird?
Oh, I think everyone's is. You are not alone.
But like weird in like that I don't feel like as productive because it's not like making me feel very rested. I don't know.
Like restless? You feel restless?
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I have a schedule like where I want to sleep during the day, you know, and then like in the morning after Fajr, like I can't get to sleep. So
yeah, same.
SubhanAllah. Alhamdulillah. Oh, you're asking about the cooking, right? Or the
Yeah, how was the iftar jam?
It was really good, alhamdulillah. I think I'm cooking again on Sunday.
MashaAllah.
Hey, stop that. Sorry. My cat is trying to
What are you going to cook? Are you going to cook the same thing?
I'm cooking lasagna. Inshallah.
Oh, you're cooking lasagna. Oh,
it's like a tradition in this community. Like the sheikh's wife usually cooks it, but she's like getting older and she doesn't feel like it, so.
Assalamu alaikum, Stephanie. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you guys?
So nice to hear your voice again. It's been a while.
It's been a really
It's been a while.
I've been busy. It's been
You have.
hectic. Yeah,
What have you been up to?
Well, right now I'm sort of shortlisting. I'm in the process of hiring new staff for the summer. So, and we're revamping the program as well. So I'm kind of doing two things at the same time.
Oh, nice. Busy.
Busy, and then I've also got to apply for my own job again, which is always
What? Oh, so the
a fun aspect of working in a university.
I know.
Is that what you have to do?
Great. Well, like if
Depending
you're on
on your
contract,
program.
yeah, like
yeah.
because I'm on a contract that the intention is it'll become, inshallah, ongoing, permanent position.
Inshallah.
But I mean, until it does, like I've got to reapply for it. Now, when I say I've got to reapply, like nobody else is applying for the job. They open the job up. They make a note saying the position's already been filled. I'm the only person that submits an application, and I just carry on. But I still have to do the cover letter, and I still have to do the resume. Like it's just like it's bureaucracy, right? Like it's just
That's so obnoxious.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
husband
so I mean,
was
like-
telling me about that too, and he was like so annoyed.
It's
Wow.
so dumb.
It
So I'm,
is.
it was supposed to go live today, like midnight. So like, you know, we're up praying Taraweeh. I say to Tamara, all right, I'm gonna submit my application now because it's like midnight, and midnight rolls around and it's not open. Like they didn't open it up, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me! Like I got this stupid thing ready to go. So now I've been told it's tonight. Oh no, we're going to open it tonight now. And I was like, well, I'll be awake again because it's not like I have a regular sleep schedule anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that and
I
taxes.
feel you on that one.
You know.
Oh,
all
right.
that.
Alhamdulillah, you got
That's my
them.
life. Alhamdulillah.
You got them submitted.
Yes, alhamdulillah. That was, oh man, I'm gonna have to do taxes again in, I think it's October for Australia. So
Oh, wow.
I gotta do taxes twice this year. Like it's done.
That is really annoying.
Man. But alhamdulillah, like the taxes in Australia, thankfully, like they're easy enough that you can do them yourself. Whereas here in Canada, like I know that my brother does them himself, but I can't figure that out. It's like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to figure out the Canadian taxation system. I just pay people.
Right?
Yeah.
Do my taxes.
I don't even do my own. I just let my husband do it.
So I don't even know.
I mean,
I don't even think I'd want to try, like, to figure out taxes while I'm fasting. Like, that's just like a recipe for disaster.
It sounds painful, honestly.
Get out of there.
Yeah, it does.
It is. It's seriously like, it's just, well, because it's a little bit more difficult because I've come back to Canada after 8 years and I haven't paid taxes in Canada for 2 of those, the last 2 years. And so now I've got to get back into the system. I have a dependent, like my husband's considered a dependent because he's not working. I have sort of like
different.
tuition.
I don't do that here.
Grants and stuff like it's just like
I wish
there's
there
all
were
these other like
teachers.
little things, you know, and working from home. If you work from home, there's different tax deductions for that. And I'm like, you got to be like you literally have to be an accountant to figure this stuff out. I just
Truth.
I just paid truth. So
That is like the best way to go.
it is.
You know,
Paid a
like,
guy
forget
and,
that.
you know, Bismillah, that was basically it. But it was stressful because they waited to the last minute to do it. That was the thing that I didn't like.
That is stressful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not fun.
I'm here just like trying to figure out everyone's time zone, and that is difficult.
We need like a chart.
Yeah, like I know there's like a website and you can plug in everyone's times and stuff, but like it's just, oh my gosh. Even so, like when I go to the website, I feel like it's like a calculator. Like, what do I do next? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Numbers.
Like, do you use World Time Buddy?
On like the website?
Like the website?
Is it a website? I actually, believe it or not, like Siri is actually good for one thing.
Siri,
and
what
she
time
can tell
is
me
it?
the sign. Exactly. I always ask, like, what time is it in here? What time is it in there? And she actually can answer me. One of the very few things that she can do, you guys. So,
That's cool.
so I use Siri to like figure out what your time zones are. But I think because we've met quite a bit, like mashallah, I know your guys like what time it is, PST and EST. But but other than that, like for example, Sherelle, who's joined us today, hello. Alaska is just, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about it. Like, yeah. Hello, Khalil. It's nice to see you here. Okay, anyways, I think we should get started so we can have enough time to cover everything or more
inshallah.
things. Inshallah. Okay, so last live, Kira, do you want to, or anybody, Fatima, want to sort of like summarize what we talked about? Because I haven't actually finished editing that episode yet. So, and I'm sorry, I don't really remember what we talked about.
It's okay. I can kind of try and do a TLDR. Like, we essentially were talking a lot about marriage, what to look for in a potential suitor, like some red flags that we've personally experienced. We did talk a lot about like divorce and things we want to do to like try and avoid that,
Right.
inshallah. And also to just kind of, we also talked about like how the idea of half our deen is really misappropriated and misused. And just kind of like some things that are thrown around the Muslim community, like you have to get married right away, that just aren't true.
Right. Fatima, anything to add to
I
that?
feel like that was a much better explanation than what I was.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about, I guess, sort of expand more on, do we need to get married from an Islamic perspective? I'm hoping Fatima has notes for that. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Get them out, but
Okay, as long as you have notes, good. And then we're going to talk about, I guess, more red flags, right? I guess we're sort of just going off more in detail.
like a bit more in depth, yeah.
More, yeah. And green flags. Last session, we were talking about green flags. Or
Yeah,
like
what
I guess, I don't know,
were some things
success stories or whatever. Is that what we want to talk about today?
Yeah. I think it's also kind of like tricky with green flags too, because it's like they might
by
be
the
green
way-
flags for the one person, but
Okay, I'm sorry, but today's May 1st?
what?
No. Well, for you it might be, but here it's still.
Yeah.
30th.
How is it May
wow.
1st today? Wow.
Oh, yeah,
You can
'cause
tell
here
I'm
it's
on
still April
Ramadan
30th.
schedule.
I was like, what? Already?
No, you can tell I'm on Ramadan schedule. Sorry, I just looked at my
Mashallah.
computer and it just said May 1st. I panicked. Okay, anyways. Sorry about that. All right, so are we going to talk about, or why don't we talk a little bit more? Because I felt like we sort of just touched briefly on what we should look for in a spouse.
Yeah, I think we should definitely expand on that.
Right.
I think the green flags thing is a good idea to talk about. And I think we just have to like disclaimer, like everything is somewhat subjective. So, I mean, even if
Yes,
something was a green
100%.
flag for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that would be for you. So, you know.
Precisely.
Right. Yeah, really. Yeah. Oh, a big disclaimer. Because like some things that work for me definitely would not work for another sister, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that works for other sisters definitely would not work for me, for example. So I think definitely we have to keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just
All
have
right.
to realize that everyone's sort of looking for, or what they, will or will not put up with, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, exactly.
standards.
It's
Standards, right.
standards, exactly. Like, I mean, I look at some of my friends and I see sort of the stuff that they do, and I'm like, I couldn't do that, And then
Right,
some of them look
right.
at me and they're like, I couldn't do what you do. So, but it doesn't mean that one marriage is better than the other or not. It's just how
Exactly.
you got to do what works for you. Like the main thing is just to make sure that you're not being abused or taken advantage of in the situation that you're in.
Right.
And your rights fulfilled, blah, blah, blah.
The
Otherwise,
basic.
Yeah.
the basics. Otherwise, your marriage is going to be unique.
Right, right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's like there's no one size or one shoe fits all for anything, for anything. And it definitely goes the same for marriage. And I think like as converts, for example, all our families are different. Like we can't use the same things for like Stephanie's family. Like what works for me and my parents might not work for Stephanie and her parents. Same thing with marriage. Like it doesn't, like everyone has their own dynamics that works for them. So I think that's always like really good to keep in mind, because I feel like a lot of people on social media love to compare.
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
it's like,
And then-
what is it
Oh, yeah.
called? Like the couple goals.
Oh.
Yeah, the
and
hashtags.
the hashtags. And it's interesting because I remember following, I can't even remember the names, but there was a couple that was really famous on Insta.
yes.
I think everyone probably knows where I'm getting at. And they've fallen out of the limelight rather spectacularly. And,
Yes.
I remember when I first kind of came across them going, wow, like I am a whole lacking. we, like sort of thinking, I actually believed it. I can't believe I admit this, like sort of believing what you see from like people like them. And I've seen lots of other couples now too, like on TikTok and stuff, where they really portray like the one side, like one side of marriage, like the always good side, or
yes, it's perfect.
It's perfect. That's exactly. Right. And I think it's really damaging.
Very.
Yes. And it's, and I know that, okay, my marriage is fine. Like it doesn't need to be like the one that I see on TikTok, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But like it still niggles in the back of your mind. Like it does,
right.
Like I sort of watch it and be like, oh, like I just watched, and it's stupid. It's just, you look at it and you go, yeah, they're having fun. I have fun too, just because I just watched someone the other day make like this absolutely stupid candy drink on TikTok. And I'm thinking, oh, we don't do that. And I was like, why am I thinking we don't do that? We don't like that. Why would we do that?
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
No, it's really true. And I have to say, like, I have no idea,
you know what
but
I'm talking about?
Yeah. No.
Oh,
yeah.
No,
maybe you can send that to us.
Like, scammed a bunch of people too.
No way.
Oh wait. Oh no. Are you talking about
what's going on?
Okay. Are we talking about the Insta couple? The Instagram couple?
The Muslim one, or
she's Stephanie was talking about TikTok. They made a candy drink.
I was talking about.
I think
that's a different one.
Yeah, the one you're talking about is on Instagram.
Is on
Fatima.
Instagram.
Yeah, I'm talking about Instagram one too.
No,
and they did scammy.
Yeah, Stephanie's talking about
it's like a niqabi lady
candy drink.
Yeah. No, I that was the couple. I started following them.
Yeah, everyone was following them. Like it was a
lot of
thing.
people.
Mm-hmm. And it was. I don't know. And it's funny because like when it sort of all, came crumbling down, it's funny, like a part of me kind of thought not just that theirs was a sham, but is there potential that other people's were? And it kind of made me start second guessing a lot of things. And I don't know why, which is stupid because again, everything was fine in my world. It's just amazing the kind of influence that when you see that, like it makes you start thinking about your own. And it's like, mine doesn't need fixing. Mine doesn't need TikTok. Need any of these. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I'm probably not making any sense.
I get where
I get it.
No, you totally make sense.
I'm just, that's good. Because my brain is just frazzled.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like kind of when you're exposed to that a lot and you see all these people that are like so seemingly happy, like you kind of put their best moments against your worst sometimes. Because that's kind of like when you see people like getting a new job on social media or like, oh, they went on this fantastic vacation. It's like you're comparing their highlights to like either the mediocre or like not so great parts of your life rather than like comparing your highlights to their highlights. So you kind of start questioning like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. There's not. So yeah, I can really relate.
Yeah,
I agree.
Did you want to add more? You just said I agree, like, and it sounded like you wanted to say more.
I don't know why I found that so funny.
Oh, she had to go. I think she had to go. Yeah, maybe she got cut off or something.
Oh, maybe.
I was like, okay, did she want to add more? I think she wanted to add more, but I think something happened to her connection.
Inshallah, everything's fine.
Yeah, inshallah, she'll come back.
Inshallah.
But I really agree with you with the whole comparing yourself on social media, because it's sort of just like, you look at things and you're like, oh, wow, look at them. They're so happy. And like, they're so rich and like, they get to travel all the time and they have like all these kids and all these blah, 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 and all these la, 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 la. Like the list goes on and on and on. And then like, you fail to, like Stephanie said, like you fail to just look at what you have and be grateful that Allah has given you blessings as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Fatima's back.
Can you guys hear me? My Wi-Fi
Yeah.
or something. I don't know what happened.
Wait, what's going on? Like, I can't see you, Fatima, but I can hear you.
I don't have any idea.
Yeah, you were saying. Oh, let me just invite you as a speaker. Yeah, you were saying I agree, and then I was like, "Oh, do you have more to add?" And then you just left.
So I think I was talking to like dead air for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, and then we were just laughing, not at you, but just with the situation. So yeah, what did you want to add?
Like, I agreed with what Stephanie was saying, and that like I think that it's an example for us to like remember that we shouldn't focus on other people's situations, and we don't really know what's always going on.
100%.
So yeah, even if it's not that bad, I mean, people still have problems. Like, nobody's perfect.
I actually know of like at least a handful of sisters who display a really, I guess, wholesome life with their family on social media, but in reality, like behind closed doors, it's actually a train wreck and a half. Like, and if people actually knew about it, they would definitely think twice about what they see on social media and actually believing what they see.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why I don't want to ever, like, I don't post, like, I posted a video with my husband, but it was like him doing something. Like, it wasn't like about us being like couple-y stuff or anything. Some of the stuff is like,
yeah, like you shared beneficial thing. Like, it was a beneficial reminder.
Yeah, it was like him telling a reminder from the Quran. It wasn't like us like hugging or jumping around or something.
Like how we met.
Yeah, if I'm gonna do how we met, I'll do it by myself. Like, I don't need my husband to be there. Sorry.
I think Karima wants to call in. Hold on. Karima, mashallah, always has something very good to say. All right. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Or I make mistake.
Oh, you didn't want to call in?
I didn't, sorry. Because I'm trying to change the screen. I said, okay, what is it? Okay.
This is why I love live. Yes, no problem. Don't worry.
Okay, let me figure out again.
Here, I'll disconnect you. Yes, this is the beauty of live. Okay, so we also Khalil wrote here. We have to remember that Hased is real. Yes, 100%. I think that should be like Hased, like evil eye or like jealousy.
Oh, yeah.
I think like, honestly, like, if anyone should know better, it's like Muslims. That like, why you just so like, honestly, sometimes I see like Instagram accounts and I'm like, wow, she's so brave to be putting her life out in public like that. SubhanAllah.
Well, maybe you haven't experienced it because your life hasn't been public up until now, but like you don't realize that how serious it is, and like what it can literally like destroy everything.
Okay, so we sort of went off on a tangent here, so we'll pivot back. And so one tip is to don't compare yourself when don't compare yourself to other couples on social media, because you don't know what's really happening behind closed doors. Okay, so what else? So what do you think are some important things to sort of pay attention to when sisters are seeking a spouse?
You know, I think one thing that I think we did touch on this before, but I just want to reiterate it because it's something I ignored and I really wish I didn't ignore it, is just your gut feeling around this person. Like, are you relaxed around them? Are you anxious around them? Like, do you get a weird feeling around them? Do you feel calm around them? Like, just tuning into yourself can really tell you a lot. And like with my ex, like I always kind of felt weird around him, but like I couldn't put my finger on it, and I wish I had paid attention to that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I also think that kind of along that line is don't ignore the answers to your istikhara. Like when
Yes.
you pray istikhara and everything becomes really difficult, that's an answer. You know, like don't ignore that. Like let's say you guys had made a plan that okay, we're gonna get married after 2 weeks or something, and then you pray istikhara and like everything falls apart and it's like okay, it's gonna take 2 months and it's gonna be like this and you're gonna have to do all this stuff with paperwork or whatever. Like those can be answers. Like you're intentionally not taking it as an answer because you want this thing.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
SubhanAllah, I actually have a really insane story about that. It wasn't with my ex, but it was a different brother that like was a friend of my friend's husband, and they wanted to set us up. And so like I was going to meet him after Juma with like my wali at the masjid, and subhanAllah, that very day he lost his house, he lost his job, and I think there was something wrong with his car too. Wow. And it was after I prayed istikhara, so I was just like, okay, I don't think this is the person for me. And I mean, may Allah Azza wa Jal rectify his affairs and make things easy on him. And hopefully, inshallah, since that was a few years ago, he found somebody suitable. But like, yeah, that was just like a huge, okay, this is not something I should be pursuing.
Right. I think we have Khalil calling in here.
Assalamu alaikum, my dears. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, wa alaikum salam.
I have to go soon because iftar is around the corner. But I wanted to say that, and I don't know if everyone experienced this. I've been Muslim, alhamdulillah, this Ramadan for 17 years.
Mashallah.
Mashallah.
I mean, it took me a while, probably about 10 of the 17 years, to really take my rosy colored glasses off, you know, and when dealing with Muslims, you know, I mean, of course we love our brothers and sisters for the sake of Allah, but you can't trust everyone just because they're Muslim. So I think sometimes, you know, if you feel like, you know, there's something wrong, it's good to give your brother or your sister the benefit of the doubt, but when it comes to a potential spouse, these things have to be noted because he's going to be your spouse. I mean, it's not saying that he's a bad Muslim or whatever, but, you know, be picky, you know, like, okay. And of course we make excuses for each other too, right? But like when it comes to your own, I don't think that you should make that many excuses. That's just, you know, because
yeah,
like don't just settle, you know?
Prioritizing what is a reasonable excuse. Like if it's like, does he have a really amazing job? As long as it's consistent, you know, those are kind of things where it's like maybe you can work around those things. But like,
okay, like for example, let's say he's been unemployed for 5 years, but he's telling you, he's looking for a job. And you're like, oh, okay, he's looking for a job. No, you know, like,
don't settle. Yeah.
No, like for me, it would be like the difference between like someone who's had a job at a grocery store for 10 years versus someone who's like a doctor. I think it's okay.
Another
like
thing
if
I
he's
learned,
good.
and this is my dealings with a brother who my husband and I, we had a nonprofit with, and we were warned, you know, about him and his character, but we were like, you know, he's Muslim, and so what about his past? And, you know, we're just like, he's practicing now and that's what matters. But past does matter. You know, so what I learned from that is, alhamdulillah, I've been married for a long time, but for my children is that I'm going to look at your past, you know, like Allah, inshallah, forgives you for whatever, and I'm not going to judge you for your past. However, it's a part of you, you know? So that is also something when it comes to yourself or your children, you know, marrying off, it's something that you have to consider.
I think that's a good point too. And I think that's true for sisters as well. And I think that part of that is trauma too. Like you bring that into your marriage, even if you have been forgiven or you know, have changed your
Oh,
ways,
yeah,
you still have
definitely.
trauma that you hold on to, and you have to deal with those things.
Yes, yes, definitely that too.
Yeah, and
Right.
definitely, like, if you've been in an abusive marriage or relationship, like, before getting married, you have every right to take that time for yourself and to focus on yourself and your own healing. Like,
Would
you
argue
don't...
Yes,
have-
and
need
you
to.
should.
Like, it's not
Should.
just
You have to.
right.
Yeah.
You should take that right.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
a
you
sister
should-
said, the sister said your past doesn't define you, and it really doesn't. And hence, you know, we were, you know, trying to be open with the brother in our dealings and, you know, working with him. But it crept back, you know, like his past made, it was a part of him, and he reverted back to it, and he's not even Muslim anymore, you know? So it doesn't define you, and I'm not saying that we should judge anyone, you know, because alhamdulillah, if someone comes back to Islam or, you know, is trying to be on the straight path, then, you know, we can support them in that, but that does not necessarily mean that he's marriage material or that you should insert yourself into his life, you know. And that's not for everyone, but it's just a lesson I learned from dealing with this particular dude. So,
Yeah.
you know, I learned that for my children, you know. Because
Part of it-
as reverts,
Yeah,
we
go
do
ahead.
have a past, and we don't want anyone to judge us on what we did before Islam, right? But in this case, the guy was Muslim, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and now he's not. So, Allah knows best.
I think we shouldn't dismiss their past. Like, you know, we should just take into consideration,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just also being aware of it and knowing if it's something you can handle.
Handle, exactly, yeah.
Like, you don't necessarily have to shun the person or, like, be against them, but knowing about it can help you, like, navigate dealing with them.
Right.
How to deal with them. Or, like, if you even want to put yourself in that situation.
And I
Exactly.
think that can lead to the concept of going to premarital counseling, which is
Yes.
really important.
We highly recommend everybody do it.
Especially
Yes.
in these days. Yeah.
100%, even more so in these days.
Yeah.
I think Sherelle said we shouldn't expose our sins.
Amanda said, I think if there's evidence of true character reform, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't marry that person. I'm saying you need to, like, be aware of those things in certain cases. Like, depending on the individual, you need to be aware because...
Like, okay, for example, like a brother converted, let's say while he was in jail, okay? And then he got out of jail. Like, that's always going to be a part of him because he was in jail and he's going to have a criminal record. Like, if you want to get involved with someone like that, like, that's at your own risk, you know? Like, if we're talking about someone's past. Or, like, it's really hard to say. It depends on the sister and it depends on the brother. Like, it's ultimately up to them if they want to get involved with that.
And it's not
But you know,
necessarily,
in
like,
the case
exposing
of
your
this,
sins.
like I know, you know, brothers who got reverted to Islam while they were locked up, and alhamdulillah, they're good brothers. The ones I know are stepdads, and they're good stepdad family men, and they've changed ways, alhamdulillah. But in this case, I guess this is another factor is that I had mentioned someone had warned us about him. You know, so if people are warning you about a particular individual, you know, then it's important to not ignore those things just because,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
you
I'm
trust-
I'll
because they're
have
Muslim
that
and you trust them now. You know,
experience.
like
Because you said that you at first kind of ignored it, you know? You said like, oh, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. But people already warned you about him. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think when your friends also have gut feelings about someone, you should take that into consideration, especially if you don't have a
100%.
family to do that for you. So, I mean, I've had that as my personal experience, but then also with other sisters that I've been, like, helping and stuff. like go through divorce and things, like, you know, when they were getting married, and I was like, this guy's kind of fishy, or we don't know his full situation, we need to do more research before you go through with it. But they go through with it anyway, and then they're like, well, why didn't you stop me? It's like, because
You wouldn't listen.
You didn't listen to me. And I think Khadija knows exactly how that feels, because she did the same with me.
Actually, I'm not even gonna lie. I've had several sisters that, and I'm not even including you, but I've had a few sisters who I'm just sitting out like as the, you know, on the sidelines and watching everything, and I'm just thinking like, and I've advised them many times, and then like in the end, it really is what it was, like what I saw, and then they're like, okay, wow, you were right. Like, you're
not
to
in the moment. Like, you're not like,
exactly
in that, like, love goggles feeling, like
love is blind kind of thing, you know. So Amanda here said, unfortunately, pre-marriage counseling isn't widely available. That is true.
Oh, see, like when I was in Houston, it was like very common, subhanAllah, and it was like a lot of masajid, like there was 2 or 3 that wouldn't allow you to get married unless they did premarital counseling.
Wow.
Oh, that's really good.
So
that's
amazing.
Impressive. Yeah, really good.
That is something that I wish that we had. Like I think it would have sort of gotten rid of a lot of bumps that happened in the first year.
Oh, facts.
You know, like, because it's sort of like when you don't have that, it's just kind of like buckle up and hold on, because you're gonna figure it out. You know,
you're going for a ride.
You're going for a ride, and nobody tells you this. Like, not even. I mean, my parents didn't know I got married. I didn't tell them until we'd been married for like 4 or 5 months. But I know that like my parents did marriage counseling through the church. They weren't allowed to get married.
Yeah, that was pretty common. It's been common in the church for a long time, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I was really surprised when I was trying to get married as a Muslim that it's like not really a thing, or at least it wasn't a thing in Australia. In Melbourne, I should say. Let me just reduce that down to Melbourne. And I mean,
sorry.
You know, like with, I don't know, like, I mean, I had a wali, and he did, I don't think he did enough in the counseling end. He was really focused on finance. He was really focused on like the financial end. So there was counseling around financial.
But
and that is good. It was good. Like, it was really good. But not on kind of other things. Like, he kind of just left that up to us. And we both sort of made the assumption. I mean, I had been in relationships before. My husband, not so much. We just kind of assumed we're good to go. Like, we know what we're looking for. We know what we want. We know all the right questions to ask. Like, and then you kind of realize afterwards, actually, you know, there's maybe some other things you should have asked. I mean, we're fine, like, alhamdulillah. But, you know, there was a lot of discussion that actually happened after you basically say, I do. That's where we notice like a lot more. You really like getting to know the person, and then also sort of realizing certain things that even just like certain things where like you said you were kind of okay with it at the beginning, and then actually got into the marriage, you kind of go, actually, I think we need to renegotiate that particular aspect.
Oh yeah, that's definitely happens.
You know, and I guess like I really wish that somebody had sat me down, and none of the sisters did this, and I don't want to hold it against them, but I kind of wish that one of my married friends had sat me down and been like, look, what you discussed before you get married isn't really going to necessarily hold after. You know, there's going to be renegotiation. There's going to be change. No one told me how flexible I was going to have to be. I just went into that marriage like, I am my own independent woman, and I am going to continue being my own independent woman. And that don't work. Figured that one out the hard way. But no one sort of, and I think part of it, like me, like had a very, like my mindset was like super Western, really hadn't started to mold into like, Islamic mindset. I don't know how to phrase this, but
The like Islamic household mindset.
yes, yeah, and it's still like it's still a struggle for me. It really is. Like
Right.
which is bizarre because I grew up in a very traditional Christian household, and
Right.
I think it's because I honestly think it's because like I disagreed with the fact that my mother gave up everything just to please my dad and to raise us. And it wasn't necessarily for benefit of her, if that makes sense.
Right.
I disagreed with certain things that my dad did. So I think that's why I just swung the opposite hard. And then when I got married, I was really upfront about that, you know, and I kind of thought that it would work. I don't know, somehow I thought it was going to work. And I still struggle with embracing the Islamic idea of how the household should run. Like, it's hard. It's really hard. I find it really hard.
It's not easy though.
It's
Because
not.
you've been conditioned, like a lot of women have been conditioned with the Western culture mentality. You know what I mean?
I mean, even if you
So
were seeing
it's-
it in your home, like it's still everywhere else going around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Telling a certain way of things.
Well, and it's hard.
Okay, so sorry, I'm just going to before it gets more messages. So I'm just going to read out the comments, and then Amanda, I see, has also joined us. She called in. So let me just read these comments here. In the UK, it's difficult to get a wali who wants to be involved other than the actual nikah. So premarital counseling here I have never heard of. And then when you say counseling, do you mean like meeting with the imam and suitor X amount of times?
So, to the first thing, I would say I'm talking specifically about Houston. My experience in the rest, like when I was in Kentucky and Ohio, was completely different and was very similar to what you're saying about the UK. Like, I did not have a wali that wanted to be involved at all. They were like, bring me the person and we'll do the nikah. So that's like a specific Houston, because it's a huge Muslim community, like, mashallah. It's a very different experience there. And they've also had a lot of issues in the past, I think, with like abuse and dealing with that. So I think they wanted to figure out a way to resolve those things. And when I say counseling, I mean, yeah, like multiple times. Like, I know that there's one sheikh there who requires them to meet like a certain amount of times beforehand, and then 6 months later do a checkup, like after the marriage. And then like
That's
a
really
year
cool.
later as well. So I know that's not like everywhere, obviously. But if you have the access, and sometimes it's a matter of, you know, asking, like depending on where you are too, like, can you do this? Will you do this? Do you suggest someone who would do it if you don't have time? So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to pop in and give like the UK context to all of this.
Yes,
because,
please.
Like the sister commented, we don't have premarital counseling as a widespread option at all. There's maybe 2 organizations that I know of that are private organizations, profit-making organizations that offer it. They do like parenting courses and pre-marriage courses, but you have to pay for them and they're not cheap. Not everybody can afford that, right?
Yeah.
So
I should preface that with that's pretty much the same. I mean, you would have to pay for it here. It's not necessarily.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing
they
is
pay
it
the
can actually
masjid to
be-
get married. So
Okay, yeah, you pay the masjid to get married, and if you're paying the masjid for the premarital counseling, okay, you could say that, but this is like, if this were a prerequisite to getting married, it would be a barrier for a lot of people.
oh yeah,
The cost would make it a huge barrier.
I agree. I
Yeah, and this is an issue because like I do think it's so vital to have some kind of guidance beforehand.
Yeah.
And then we have the same, like the sister said, the wali or the wakil, it's like it's a rubber stamp exercise, and they don't do. And if a sister needs help afterwards, there's no help. And especially for convert sisters, this is disastrous because, like, you know, when things go wrong, where does she turn? You know, and the Sharia councils, if you want to get any help from them, they charge an arm and a leg. So I think what
That's so
we,
interesting. We don't have that. I don't know of that here.
Yeah, I mean, I think everywhere is going to be different, isn't it? But we have had these issues in the mosques. I'll tell a story. One of our local mosques, they used to sort of have this attitude that letting people get married should be easy. You know, let everybody fulfill half of their iman. So they really didn't do any checks. It's like if you showed up at the mosque and you had some ID, they would marry you. You know, and you paid the fee, they would marry you. Sort of like they didn't really ask any questions. And then they had a case. They had the police come and show up. And they said, the police were like, did you perform a nikah for this man and this woman? And they were like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it sounds familiar. And it turned out that this man had coerced this woman into marriage forcibly by threatening her. He had actually sexually assaulted her, taken videos of her.
Oh my
God.
And then threatened her with exposure in order to coerce her to marry him. And she had, alhamdulillah, she had gotten away and gone to the police, and it was going to trial, but they were trying to figure out which mosque had actually married them and why hadn't they done the checks. Like they hadn't spoken to the girl at all to see if she even consented.
I mean, I get that, but I also feel like in hindsight, you know, that they should do something, but at the same time, I don't think it's their responsibility in terms of legality. Because
so alhamdulillah, yeah, they do now.
The courts don't do that. Like, if you were to go and get a certificate from the courthouse and then just like, you know, do a legal marriage, I don't think they necessarily.
I don't know how it works in the States, but to do a legal marriage here is quite stiff. You have to like, it's a procedure. They do checks and all of that stuff on you if you want to get married.
They don't here.
For a legal marriage, really? So
you just go get a marriage certificate, and then you can be married.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So
like Las Vegas.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I guess here we've got a place up in Scotland called Gretna Green, which traditionally people would elope to because you didn't have to have like 48 hours notice or something like that. But yeah, but now what the mosque does is they'll have a separate interview with each, the bride and the groom, ahead of time. And they check all the documents, they take address details and all of that stuff. So now they're doing it a little bit more properly.
Good.
It could be good, but it also drives a lot of it underground because there are other mosques who don't bother with all of this. And so if somebody wants to get married quickly, they just won't bother with that mosque, they'll go to one of the other places. So, you know, it's sort of, everybody's got to be on the same page, I think. But what I wanted to say is that, like, for converts, we need to, as converts with more experience in these things, set up our own networks to support people. Like, you know, the whole wali issue is never going to get sorted out. It's always going to be that they just pluck some random uncle out of the prayer hall and ask him to witness it, right? Yeah, you're her wali. But what we need to do is, okay, maybe you're not a sister's wali because you're a sister, but you can do all the jobs that a wali should do. For example, checking out the guy, having his background investigated, you know, telling her what questions to ask, interviewing him, things like that. And I think that that's sort of really essential because nobody's going to do it for us. You know, we're the ones experiencing it, so we're the ones who really get what it means. And people in the heritage Muslim community aren't necessarily going to have any sort of sympathy towards this because it's just not part of their reality necessarily.
Yeah, very true.
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. So.
No, really good and very true. So how do you think, aside from like the sisters looking out for, you know, the other sisters, what else can the community do?
I think the community needs to stop being hesitant to tell about people's bad pasts.
Like, just be honest.
Be honest. And I think too, like, but also, and I would say this to sisters, you have to take the advice. You know, when people come to you and they say to you, look, I know that you're thinking about this brother. What I know about him is X, Y, Z. You know, for God's sake, listen to it. Take it on board. I know so many sisters who, you know, I found out stuff about their potential spouses. Really bad stuff. And when I've told them, they've been like, oh yeah, but that's in the past and he's changed. and you're like, woman, I'm telling you that he was, toking up 3 months ago. That's not, he's changed. That's recent history,
Right,
It's not
right.
like when he was 16, he used to smoke every now and again, and now he's 27. That I could understand, but you're talking about really recent past. But don't let yourself get emotionally attached to somebody before marriage.
Yes.
Keep it official, keep it business-like. Don't cross those red lines. Protect your heart, because if you find out anything bad, being emotionally attached to that person will make you disregard the bad stuff.
Yeah, and I think that that's
that'll
part
come
of
back
like
to you.
the mentality that we have here in terms of marriage in general too, like in the Western mentality that like it's all like lovey-dovey and I don't know.
Well, I gotta say,
that whole like romance and all this stuff.
I have to say that is why you don't talk to the guy alone. Because when you talk to him alone and there's no third party, you already automatically form an emotional attachment,
Yeah.
Because he can say whatever he wants. He can lure you in.
You can flirt, you can chat.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can flirt and like,
Exactly.
"Oh, you're so amazing, sister. I've never met anyone
That's
like
why a
you."
third party is so important.
It is really important because it helps you to avoid those red lines. And I mean, it's just, even if you're just chatting on WhatsApp, right? If it's just the two of you, the shaitan is the third. Just because you're not in the same room doesn't mean it's not. That situation.
You can send
For
pics.
sure.
You can send like kissy emojis,
Well, yeah, and even with the thing we were talking about, like with narcissists and stuff, like, and the love bombing and everything, like, it doesn't have to be very overt. Like, you wouldn't necessarily pick up on it, but other people will see it. Like,
That's
if he's
very
just
true.
like, I've never met another convert who had this unique story and like these kind of things, like, those are creepy. And like, if he's in private, like saying this stuff all the time, you can think, like, there was a guy who one of my friends was talking to, and alhamdulillah, like, she didn't end up marrying him, but she never thought that he was bad because he would constantly just like, she's like, I just like the way he talks and he's so respectful and stuff. And the first time I heard him and like talk to him, I was like, oh my God, he's literally manipulating you. Like, subhanAllah, like I could tell from like one conversation how manipulative he was. And he was like trying to like push off, and he's like, oh, I don't want to get married right now and stuff. And then like, but like to her, he was like, you're so amazing and beautiful and wonderful, and I can't wait to be your husband. And then he's like, and then he'd be like, but I'm not ready for marriage. What? Why are you wasting my time?
Well, that's another thing then, though. You've got the guys who act like that, but then on the other hand, you've got the guys who want to rush and they want to get married like this Tuesday. And
yes, and they don't want to talk to your family. And they don't want to talk to your family.
Yeah, so
they don't
rushing
introduce
and
you to
not
theirs.
being willing to be, so I think like rushing in the sense of like, I want to get married quickly on its own is okay.
Yeah, it's
But when it's combined with, I don't want you to talk to people who know me, and I don't want to give you information about this and this.
Red
and this.
flag, red flag.
Huge red flags, and you can't like ignore that.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I think too, though, like I mean, the whole thing about not getting emotionally attached to people. I mean, one of the sisters said on the chat, she said I'm super wary about that because I get attached to people easily. I don't want to ever find myself trapped. This is the thing. We're women, and we do get attached. And it's normal to get attached, especially when you're looking for marriage. You start to think about this person, how it's going to be like being married to them. You can't help that. So it's all about, degrees. But that's why it's important to have that third person there in your conversations to sort of prevent you from going off on conversational tangents that perhaps aren't entirely appropriate. And I get a lot of flack for saying this when I say this in like halaqas and things, because people are all like, oh, but I don't want a marriage. It's just like a contract. And it's like, marriage is literally a contract in Islam.
Yeah.
Like it is literally that. Aqd. It's a contract. So it's like, treat it as such. The romance, the love, the attachment, that comes after you're halal for each other. That's when you build that.
And I mean, I was going to say also, like, I think that having the idea that romance is going to look the same way as it does in like the movies is like setting yourself up for disappointment.
Definitely.
Like, you're not necessarily going to get flowers every day, and
romance is him doing the dishes.
Yeah, if my husband does, it helps me do the dishes, and he like takes out the trash, and
Mashallah.
helps me with the cats and stuff. I'm like, that's mashallah. Like, I'm happy with that. Like, and then people will be like, "Oh, well, your standards are too low." I'm like, but I've been married for 5 years. I'm pretty happy. Thanks.
Yeah.
Mashallah. Like,
everybody's standards are their own.
Exactly.
I think a lot of sisters need to know that they shouldn't approach marriage with like naive lens. And I think a lot of sisters do that. They have this high expectations of like, oh, we're gonna, and I said this last time, like, we're gonna wake each other up for Tarawih. He's gonna splash water on me, and like, he's gonna like spend 24/7 with me, and we're gonna just play games all the time and travel and blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of sisters think that's what marriage is about.
Chances are, when he splashes water on you the first time, you're gonna scream at him.
He's not gonna like how I would react to that, let me tell you.
Right? Exactly. So it's like, you have this romantic notion, and then in practice,
and
it's
that's
like,
the thing.
Please don't do that ever again. I'm really okay
don't
with
approach
not.
marriage. Don't approach married life with naive lens. What you see in like dramas, that's not real life. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe like you'll have like the honeymoon phase for like 2 days, but then like reality is gonna set in, and marriage is work. Like, it's hard work. It's about compromise. Compromise is really, really important. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. They only focus on like, oh, it's about my rights, like what I should get. And if they don't give me my rights, like, this marriage sucks. And like, divorce.
I totally agree. I think we also have like this perception that like, we're going to have all these romantic things, but then we also want someone who's a provider a lot of the time. So it's like, but if they're providing and they're working full time, they're not going to have the time to do all this romantic stuff every day.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of like a give and take kind of thing, So like, yeah, you're not going to have a picnic every day after he comes home from work. Like, he probably might want to take a nap sometimes.
I gotta say something. Like, something just sparked in my mind right now. I feel like, I don't know, the more romantic someone is, like, the more red flags, like, it should be. Like, the more like
love bombing.
Yeah, it is. The more romantic they are, or they try to show that they are, they're just using this to lure you in, and you need to be careful.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
I think too, what a lot of, especially convert sisters, are naive about is how much hard work an intercultural marriage is. And let's face it, most of us are going to have intercultural marriages.
Yes,
right?
yes.
We can talk about this for a while.
Hard. Like,
same.
And it's not just about language barriers. It's about your entire epistemology of how you view the world, your entire context of how you deal with things. And now, that's not to say that you will automatically get along better with somebody from your own cultural background. You may not. And you may get along like a house on fire with somebody from across the world. But, you do have to bear that in mind. And I think, too, what a lot of us fall into the trap of is thinking that we have to chuck our culture out the window and adopt his. And that's a really, really damaging way of approaching marriage when you're 100%.
Unfortunately, that's a common narrative in the community in general.
Yeah.
Like, that converts need to get rid of their culture. And
it's ridiculous. Really, I mean, true. I get it, because they think that because Arabs and Asians have been Muslim for centuries, that they are Islamic. And that their culture is Islamic, and therefore Western culture can't possibly be Islamic because we've only been Muslim a couple generations. But no, why?
Or because we have like fornication and drinking and those kind of, or tattoos.
Yeah, okay, get rid of those.
Yeah.
I mean, so did Arabs.
But we're not saying that we want to bring those.
Exactly.
I found a lot of toxic things in a lot of other cultures that are quote unquote Muslim cultures.
And a lot of what goes on I don't know about the American context at all, but in the UK, our majority community here is South Asian, mainly Pakistani and Bangladeshi. And there is so much un-Islamic misogyny embedded in that culture and they don't know that it's not Islamic. And then, one of their boys will marry a convert girl, and suddenly it's like she's living this lifestyle that is so repressive and so foreign to her, and so, alien to what Islam actually teaches. Like this idea that, she shouldn't let her voice be heard by anybody, but she still has to live in the house with her brothers-in-law who aren't her mahram. But she shouldn't let her voice be heard by any non-mahrams. And it's like, how is that? Or things like, I remember my friend went through this. She was expecting a baby, and she was supposed to not mention the fact that she was pregnant to anybody, because then people would know what she had done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What? And seriously, I'm serious. Like the whole thing was that, like, no, you can't tell people you're pregnant, because then they'll know that you and your husband did things. And she's like,
what on earth do husbands and wives do?
I know, right? Like, why did I get married? And she was literally, why did I get married if that's going to be how it works? And she's like, I'm as big as a whale. It's not like I can hide it. I think people are going to figure it out. And I remember her saying to me, I said to my mother-in-law, I'd be more worried that they think me and my husband don't ever.
Right?
Like,
well, I mean,
like,
I've gotten that from
marriage.
people being like, well, you didn't get pregnant yet, so you must not.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah.
Thank you. You know everything about my life. So interesting. Yeah, I definitely.
Oh,
think
Elmas is saying the
problem.
pregnancy hiding is real, even hiding it from your other children. Subhanallah, I didn't know that part.
Like, I want to know, like, how? I mean, it becomes kind of obvious. What are you going to say? Oh, wow, I tucked into a lot of KFC last night. Blow to your eyes, mate. Like,
I think that there is a point of, like, not disclosing it right away. Like, because that's just, like, better, but not because of that.
Yeah.
Not because of, like, you want to hide it because people will know you did it. Like, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just so illogical, but it was the expectation, and she was expected to abide by it.
It's that kind of stuff. That stuff makes me really mad, because then, like, non-Muslims hear about that and they go, "Look, boom, Islam."
Yes,
exactly. And then, I even had to do that with my own parents. Like, when I first reverted, they were like, "You're gonna be an impressive marriage," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, actually, if he's practicing, it ain't gonna be. Having to kind of counter, it's just.
I would say even if he's practicing, there's still difficulty sometimes.
There definitely is.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by practicing.
By practicing, I mean that he's like actually fears a lot, actually understands. I can never remember the word, but the word like for protector, but it's not just protector, it's
Kawama.
That's it. Yeah, like actually understands that meaning properly. Yeah. Because they kind of just like latch on to, I am the provider, hoorah, I am man, you are my servant, latches onto this idea that I'm above you, and then takes it in an abusive direction or a totally wrong direction. But like I remember I went to a lecture about sort of what the husband is actually supposed to do. And it was kind of like, you could see like the brothers that did attend, and there weren't a lot, unfortunately. It was mainly sisters. But like minds being blown, actually realizing the gravity of the role and just how it doesn't encompass any of this cultural baloney. It's not this idea that you're sort of like master and wife is slave or something like that. Like, it just,
or a kitchen helper for your mom.
Exactly. Like, it just really kind of, for me, because I'd read a lot of that stuff, I mean, it just sort of, I don't know, it added a depth that I didn't have, and then sort of watching everyone else that was in that room, like the light bulb switching on, was it was crazy. And then I was like, why isn't this, like, that as a class needs to be free, needs to be offered in the masajid, and needs to be offered to every man before he gets married. Like, required, like, to actually have an understanding of what it is, that, you're actually supposed to do. I don't know. It just, I don't know, man.
The thing is, if you've got somebody who is like a true abusive narcissist type, they can do classes until
cows come
it won't
home.
change them how they are.
It's not going to change them. And you're never going to be able to change someone like that. And that's someone that, the community needs to speak out about and be like, he's no good, and
except they don't
but I think
know.
sort of like, well, if they don't know, then it's kind of like, okay, but like, I know of people that knew other brothers that were like that and they didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wrong.
And then they kind of wonder why a marriage didn't work or why the sister's unhappy. And it's like, well...
She should just be more patient.
Exactly. Oh, man. I could smack the patience right off a person whenever they say that. Like, it's... I don't know. It's just... I noticed that a lot, like, when I was trying to kind of get married. People suggesting brothers to me that were known to have problems... And them going, well, you're a revert and you're older. You can't be too picky.
So, yeah, I agree. And I have, like, a personal experience that Khadija knows of.
Refresh my memory.
Personally, I don't have, like, I would say basically any problem in my marriage is because of my in-laws. I don't think they're bad people. I think that living with people that aren't your husband is different. And I think that, like, even if it was my own sister, I wouldn't get along with my sister living with her at this point. Like, we just have different things we like to do. And because we're not, like, husband and wife has a different relationship. So you can kind of, like, let certain things slide or, you're more compassionate with them because you have that, like, intimate relationship that you don't have with your in-laws. So, like, just general things can annoy you or stuff like this. And I think that don't ever agree to live with your in-laws.
I was once suggested to marry a brother who was, I'm divorced, alhamdulillah, and this brother had been divorced 3 times. And I think he was about 5-6 years older than me, so what would be deemed a suitable age. But I remember he was suggested to me, and I said, why has he been divorced 3 times? And literally the answer that I got back was, oh, don't worry about that. It was because of his mother interfering, but she died last year.
Oh, my word.
And I thought, the man is like 52 years old, and at that big age, he couldn't sort himself out to keep his mother out of his marriages. 3 times.
You'd be surprised.
No, I knew it. But I was just sort of like, how dare you suggest somebody like this to me? Like, haven't I had enough of men who can't keep their mothers out of our marriages? But it is such a problem. And I think especially some cultures, it's more endemic than in others. But
but I think it happens in American culture too. Like, I think the mother-in-laws think they have, like, a right over their sons, and thus that kind of, like, transfers to the wife of the son.
Yeah, but if you're not living with them, it's easier to have barriers.
There's a very common, like, I don't know, this idea in a lot of cultures, like they see in Arab cultures, that I'm gonna treat you like my daughter, but they don't treat their daughter like that. And also, I'm not your daughter. I don't want to be treated like your daughter. I actually would like you to treat me like I'm your husband, your son's wife. Like, I have a mom, and I don't need to obey you because you're not my mother. I'll obey my own mother. Yeah.
Or and Islamically, like, from an Islamic perspective, like, the wife doesn't have to live with the in-laws. Like, a lot of men force the wife to, because they think that's part of Islam. But no, the wife can say no. She should be provided a separate living space.
Well, and I think that they should say no. And I think that, even if you think you can handle it, even if the mother-in-law is amazing, you still need privacy.
Yes, yes.
And, that's not necessarily something you're going to be able to get all the time if you're living together. And it doesn't mean you need to live in across the country or something. I'm fine if you live in the same apartment complex or if you live down the street, but not in the same house.
Yep. That was something that I was adamant about. And I called things off with certain brothers that I talked with because they were from that culture where you have to live with the in-laws, you have to live with your brother, or you got to live with whoever. And I was like, nah. And like when we got married, when Tamara and I got married, I was like, we are never living with your parents. We are never living with my parents. I don't care how poor we are. We are.
That's
like,
the thing too.
I just know myself.
To live
like
with my parents either.
Yeah, like I can, like I mean, my dad and I have a limit of 2 weeks before we bite each other's faces off. So I mean, I was like, we can't ever live with my parents. And my in-laws, like, alhamdulillah, they're lovely, you know, no problems with them. But like, it's a privacy thing for me. It's a privacy thing. And it's also, I'm kind of like, you know, they have, and this is maybe something that I was kind of raised with, is that my parents were really big on, once we hit the age of 18, they were like, we want to have our life and our privacy back. They want to have their space. And that kind of got instilled with me. So when I kind of look at like his parents and my parents, I go, I kind of feel like they've deserved their space now. You know, I want to give them their space. But also for me, I'm thinking, okay, like if we have kids, there's physically not space for everybody where they are, you know?
So
in either home.
Part of that is like the aspect, and a lot of like cultural women give up careers and education for their children, and so they feel like almost that their child owes them, which I don't think is fair.
No, I don't. Yeah.
That's my mom.
They feel like you owe me, and so you're gonna stay with me and take care of me.
Yeah,
and
that's
your
my
wife
mother.
is an extension of that.
That's my dad. Funnily enough, that's my dad.
Really?
Yeah, it's my dad. It's not my mom. Like my mom wanted to be a mom, and she had like a good job, and she was on track to do great things, and she gave it all up, and she got pregnant with me because she's like, actually, what I wanted to do with my life was be a mother. I was just waiting for the moment to happen, kind of a thing. But my dad is very much like that, you know, and likes to remind me how much money has gone into my education, how much he has given me, how much he has done.
Like, yeah, how much sacrifice.
Like when I reverted, he was like, this is how you repay me after everything I've done for you and all the education I've given you, you know? Yeah. So he's the one that kind of reminds me of that kind of stuff, and is the one that is more sort of like wanting me to move back closer to home, like that kind of stuff. Like there's an expectation that I now owe them. And that was
I know how you feel.
That was a big thing for me. Like when we got married, it was one of the things I said to my husband, I said, I need to know how you feel about sort of, how do you view your kid? Like, do you view them in that sense that they're going to owe you? Or do you view it as like, you were the one that wanted them, you're the one that brought them into the world, it's your responsibility to care for them. And then at some point, they're not ours, really, they're Allah's. We got to let them go, you know? And I want them to not feel like I'm the burden they got to carry. Like, I want them to look after me, like to have that sort of natural inclination that they want to do stuff, but I never want to turn around and be like, you have to. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, 100%. And I definitely think, in my experience, it's a cultural difference, for sure.
Yeah. But I still, like before we moved back to Canada, we talked about moving to Italy. And I said, okay, cool, like we can move to Italy, but we're not living with your folks. You know, I said, you may have to go over first, get settled, get a job, get a house, then I'm coming. Like, you know, that was a big thing for me. Like culturally, I think it's normal, maybe in Egyptian culture, I don't know, but my culture, no. Like there's no part of me that can do it. And I know myself, like I know it would just be an absolute disaster if I tried.
And it's good though. It's good, you know, your boundaries, your limits, you know?
Oh yeah. Like I
think having boundaries is really important.
Well, and see,
it is.
In my case,
totally.
I thought I could handle it because I was assuming that my mother-in-law was a normal person. And I didn't realize that she actually is like diagnosed bipolar. Like, I'm not trying to like backbite her, but she has issues, and it's kind of a lot. And she doesn't realize a lot of the time when she's, you know,
being
Toxic?
negative
Being
or
toxic.
being a bit toxic or whatever. Like, it's not necessarily her fault, and I realize that, so that's why I haven't like gone insane. But
But it's
'cause I
still
can try to,
hard.
like, separate that from her as a person and like her mental illness.
But it's not
But,
easy.
yeah. But I've also, like, and this is something we've been discussing lately because we're inshallah going to be moving out.
Inshallah.
You know, I'm not I accept that she has this issue, but I'm not responsible for it. And
Right.
neither
You're not her
is my
doctor.
husband. Like, she has a doctor, she can go to counseling, and she does, I mean, but, you know, we're not responsible for her emotional state as much as we're not responsible for anyone else's. You know, I think that it's not really reasonable to be responsible for someone else's emotional state. In terms of marriage either, you should not be responsible for your spouse's emotions.
100%. 100%. I just wanted to actually read this comment and talk about this because it is an issue. I was talking to an Egyptian guy who was worried about my background and if it would clash with Islamic values. Me being Guyanese Caribbean, a place with one of the highest amount of Muslims in the Caribbean, I feel like there's a stigma attached to me, and just the thought of talking to someone Arab, South Asian, etc. This is the first thing I think of. So off-putting how I know people view my culture. And then another sister said 1,000% agree and understand I'm Jamaican. That is also another issue with people of color trying to get married.
Yeah, there's a lot of like racism, colorism in a lot of
Everybody wants the white convert.
Which is honestly like really harmful for white
Very
converts.
what?
Like, it's
Very
really
harmful.
Yeah, like, I mean,
and so un-Islamic.
I've heard some sisters, you know, and I like, I'm not trying to like compare or something, but like I've heard some sisters like who are like POC, and like they'll be like you know, talking about this issue. I'm like, and I get that, but like the oppression that is happening to white converts because of this fetishization is like really toxic, and like it's harming a lot of people and causing people to like leave Islam and to, you know, have a lot of problems. So, you know, we need to address
I feel like
it
this needs
in a
to
very
be
tactful way.
There needs to be like another. I feel like there needs to be another sheikh or something, like a class that's got to talk about what was the actual, like, this whole colorism issue, you know, like I'm assuming this issue.
Even if there are, people don't care. Like,
no, people
'cause
don't
it's
care.
not
It's
even
like
always the men either. It's their parents. So,
yes,
you know, they're like, okay, I'll accept it. I'll marry whoever, but I know my parents aren't going to accept them, and I'm not going to subject my wife to having their mother-in-law say that they don't want to meet their grandchildren because they're whatever. And, you know, like, that's a real thing.
And I don't know, like, I don't know how you change that. And I know sisters that are in that boat, like that, you know, I have friends who are African. They're wanting to get married to someone who's not African, and either their family's freaking out about it or the other family's freaking out about it. I'm like, why are we freaking out about it in the first place? Like,
it's true. 100%.
You know, it's the one.
It shouldn't even be an issue.
It shouldn't be an issue at all. And something that really broke me was I had a friend of mine. She's Bosnian, and she really liked this brother who was he was African, and they got along like a house on fire. They wanted to get married. They did the right thing, went to her parents, and her parents were like, he's black. No.
Yeah.
And I just, like, and she was so upset. Like, she came to me, she's like, but this is the person I want to marry. And then I'm thinking, and I didn't say this to her, but I'm thinking, this is when people do things like zina. This is where people go, but this is the person I want to be with. And, you know, in that moment, they can sometimes cross that line. you know,
was
when the
really
parents kind of say
shocking
no.
for me, like coming in and seeing this in the community, like, because my mom is like anti-racist and like taught us to be like that, and she was like, you don't judge a person based on their skin color and, you know, stuff like this. So it was like very weird for me coming in and like be like, you know, realizing that, you know, there are people in my husband's family who have that mentality, and like they're Syrian, so it's like a certain like white skin is valued, and like colored eyes and stuff like those are seen as like value judgments on a person, and it's like, what? I'm so lost. I did not realize this was still a thing in the 21st century. So I feel like I was a bit like blindsided by that, and like also just the whole like rhetoric that we're given as soon as we become Muslim, that there's no racism in Islam. Yeah, true. But there are a lot of racist Muslims, to be honest.
100%.
You know.
As a Black American, I knew I wouldn't be marrying an Arab, Asian, or North African. LOL. It's so weird because people think their culture is Islamic and talk to you even if the family would be opposed. I'm pretty open-minded, don't care about the background. I will question that brother like no tomorrow. I refuse to be a part of a family that doesn't want me. I can't even do just tolerating. Good for you.
Yeah,
for you.
and I think that there are brothers who, like she said, like, you know, they all kind of, like ignore that their family doesn't approve of it until like it's right before the marriage or even after the marriage, and then they have problems in the marriage, or they like cancel everything right before the marriage is about to happen because their family doesn't approve. And it's like, why did you even
go this
into
far
this without figuring it out, or like, you know, educating your family and saying this is not acceptable, I'm not going to treat my future spouse like this. Okay, there's two sisters.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Inshallah.
Yeah, very awesome. I'd like to hear actually you ladies' perspective, because you guys are POC. Cheryl, your mic is mute. Do you know that? I don't know. Okay, but go ahead, sister. We'll call you Almas.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam. Yeah, so my background is Jamaican, and my ex-husband is actually South Asian. So I had the whole drama with the family and
oh gosh,
all that type of stuff. So with my experience was, I understood that being Asian, in England we just say Asian for like Pakistanis and Indians. Okay, so I know in America do you say Asian for Pakistanis or do you say South Asian?
Usually they say Desi or they say Pakistani.
Oh yeah,
but that's fine. You can say Asian. We understand what's.
So I knew there was going to be an issue, which I was fine with, because I mean I grew up in England and there's quite a bit of racism here, so it was like standard. But I wasn't expecting it to go to the level it went. So his parents actually moved back home when we got married, in protest to the marriage.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
SubhanAllah.
So that was it was interesting. I just thought it was quite comical personally. I just thought it's like way over the top. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so, and we had that situation for a few years. I had 2 children and they still did not come back to England. They did not have any communication with us.
SubhanAllah.
But the interesting thing is, we're now divorced. I actually applied for the divorce. So when they heard that I applied for the divorce, they then came back to England and tried to fix the marriage.
Wow.
SubhanAllah.
Which
because
didn't
divorces
go well.
may be more shameful than.
Well, I don't know, but the whole family had nothing to do with us for a few years. And then they showed up one day telling me that I can't divorce their son and their brother, and it didn't go down
Where
well.
were you when we needed?
Well, this was it. I was just saying, well, number one, you have no idea about the marriage or why we're even getting divorced, so don't come and tell me what I can and can't do.
Exactly.
That was like the first thing. Then I was like, I haven't heard from you ever.
Yeah.
Even when I said, I'll come and speak to you, you can ask me what you want, you can meet my family, you can do all of that. I even offered to move in with them because it's the Asian thing to do.
Oh no.
And alhamdulillah, it didn't happen. So
Yes,
but I was trying to just trying to appease the situation, and and all those efforts went to waste. So I just thought it was interesting that when everything came to an end, everyone decided that they did care. And I was just like, actions speak louder than words. But Allah works in the best ways, because now, quite a few years, it's been like 8 years we've been separated, and I actually get along better with his parents than him.
SubhanAllah. Oh,
Which is really
SubhanAllah.
strange. Which is really strange.
Wow, the tables turned.
Yeah, it's the craziest situation ever, that I never
SubhanAllah.
thought I'd be in a situation where I could call, well, I guess he's still my father-in-law, because he's always your father-in-law, that I could call him and ask him to babysit, and there's no issues. It's just so strange. But it just makes you realise that things happen for a reason, because if we'd have stayed married, that probably never would have happened. And my children still would be without that side of their family. So from a negative of divorce, a positive has come about.
Qadar Allah.
Yeah.
And I
So-
say that because we took the course.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
And it's helped me, like, with this situation, doing the course, I was like, I don't feel so bad about it now. I can laugh and joke about it. Before, it just was a black cloud. It was the worst thing ever.
Right. SubhanAllah.
But alhamdulillah, now it's fine. But since then, when I have spoken to brothers that aren't from a Caribbean background, as a sister was saying about stereotypes, I don't know, they still assume simple things like my whole family smoke a certain herb. And it's like, no one in my family, hardly anyone in my family even smokes, never mind does that. And they're like, what do you eat? I'm like, food, like every other human being. It's really strange things.
That's
and
disgusting.
They ask you, and they ask you, so they assume that every Caribbean woman is like a woman from a reggae video. And they ask you, I've even had someone's sister asked me to teach her to dance a certain way, and I was just like, what? Like,
Wow. I can't believe that.
So it's crazy that it's like 2000, this was actually last year, 2020, and people in their 20s and 30s still have this weird mindset that, I don't know, all like Caribbean
Stupid
people,
mindset. Like, stupid mindset.
straight
Not
out of
even
a
weird,
reggae
just stupid.
dancehall video. It's really weird. It's really weird, and it just shows you how much people don't mix in their own communities as well.
Yeah, and don't
That
know.
They have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
It's a shame. It's a shame. A big shame. SubhanAllah. Cheryl, did you want to add something here?
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, everybody. How is everything going?
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, I was saying, as oh my goodness, hold on.
Were you actually talking this whole time? No.
No, I was trying to, but you said I was on mute, but I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't showing mute on my end.
Yeah, it was on mute here. Weird.
That's so weird. That is so clear. Okay. But yes, I was saying, yeah, I kind of see, I don't know, when I first became Muslim, and this was back in what, like 06, you know,
Mashallah.
you're taught there's no racism in Islam, and you come in with open arms, but then you, as a black, American, was kind of shunned. Like I saw segregation, and I wasn't expecting to see that. I thought we'd all be one big sisterhood, and
Yeah, subhanAllah.
I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting to go to the match. I did have friends, alhamdulillah, from other backgrounds that kind of took me in, and we did things together. But then years later, when I was trying to get married, I knew that someone said I was kind of interested in a brother who was, I think he was Egyptian, and she was like, "Don't waste your time." I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "You're not an Arab." I was like, "Oh, okay." So from that, I knew, certain background cultures would not accept me because I'm black. Never mind the fact that I'm a Muslim, but just the fact that I'm black, I wouldn't be equal in their minds. Their kids might come out too dark, or whatever the situation might be. I'm not good enough to be a wife for them. And that's okay. Alhamdulillah, it all worked out perfectly, but it was a little disheartening at first and sad, honestly. Like, I thought Islam came to erase these stereotypes and injustice and just racial things that's going on in the world, but apparently it didn't.
Yeah, subhanAllah. And I've noticed, like, too, like, one of the red flags, I would say, for people who are, like, not necessarily, like, the person getting married, but, like, just in general, is if somebody comes and says they're looking for a convert to get married to, like, that's a huge red flag to me, and that usually does not mean a convert. Usually they mean a white person.
Yeah, I was gonna say a white person, because it's not the black ones, it's the white ones.
A white girl. That is literally what they're trying to not sound racist, but they are fully racist.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're trying to sound like they're not, but it's like, we know what you mean. Like, can you not do that?
Yeah, just say it.
Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Exactly.
Yeah, say what you
that you
mean,
have white fetish.
And I'm still not going to help you get married,
That's
but like,
so weird, man.
It is. Like, get over yourself, man.
I get so many people asking me to help them find spouses and stuff, like, through TikTok, but I've been getting people from in real life for years. And 100% I think it's because I'm a white convert, because they're like, "Oh, you must know all the white converts." I'm like, no, and if I did, I wouldn't set them up with you.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
It's so funny, like, Fatima, I've known you since like 2011, right? Or is it 2012?
2013, or yeah, 2013. I think.
Around that time, anyways. And this was never crossed my path. This whole white fetish thing. It's only until recently when I started the podcast, you guys opened up a whole new world to me.
New can of worms.
About this whole white fetish, like guys wanting like white converts. Like, it's so ill, but it's just so like, it's so ill, but it's so like, wow, like what the heck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just white converts either too. Like they will be fully racist. Like they'll be like, I would rather marry a white Christian than to marry a black Muslim.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's
wow.
What?
Yeah.
Okay,
could
bye.
Be like somebody who's like fully like practicing. Like they could be like, okay, let's say they're both Muslim. Let's just give an example of some like two Muslim women are like available for a brother that is from certain cultures. One of them is black and wears niqab and is practicing and prays 5 times a day and goes to the masjid and attends classes. And then there's a sister who is white, but she doesn't wear hijab. She sometimes prays. She backbites people and is known for it. They are gonna pick the white girl. Why? What the heck? Don't
It's
understand.
colorism, just so they can have that light. Because in certain cultures, light skin is where it is. You have to have light skin, certain texture hair. It's in the black culture as well.
Because of colonialism,
light skin,
and all this stuff. And that's what they don't realize in these communities too, is because of that. Like the Arabs.
At least we recognize it. It's recognized in our culture.
At least we recognize, but like the Arabs and Desis, that's the same reason. You were colonized by the French and the British. Like, do you think that you were naturally this way? Like, it wasn't like this 600, 700, 800 years ago. You brought this in and you just adopted it like it's...
They don't even know. Like, they don't even know.
And I've had just like my husband's family. Like my husband will... I don't know. You know, like my husband was like fine with whatever, like when he was looking to get married and stuff. But there are people in his family who were like, you know, I don't think that I'll be able to love your children if they're not light skinned. Like literally.
Wow.
That was my grandmother. Yeah. Like this idea that if they don't look like me, and I was like, well, that's unfortunate because they're not.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you know?
Like,
and I'm not, you know, I'm not blonde or anything. Like, and they'll be like, you know, well, we want our grandchildren. It's gonna be so cute, and they're like blonde and blue eyed because your sister is blonde and blue eyed. I'm like, there's no guarantee that that's gonna happen. Do you not know genetics? Like,
right, we can't pick and choose.
My husband's father has dark skin. Like, how do you know that they're not gonna take after him? Like, what?
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
It feels like when people when brothers are looking for like white converts, it's not looking for a life partner. It's looking for like a token. Like it's a trophy wife.
Trophy, yes.
It's a trophy. Like it's not actually, you know, fulfilling half the deen. It's just fulfilling half of the material.
Half your shelf.
Got on marriage.
It's also so they can almost like brag, and it's like bragging rights to be like, you know, this is my wife. And then also, I feel like some of them even want to claim your Islam as their like endeavor. Like it's like my wife is a convert. Like, you know. And act like they somehow influence that, even if you've been Muslim for 10 years or something before.
That is so true. And I've had brothers do that, actually say that, writing to me saying, I want to develop your Islam. I want to help you learn Islam. And it's like, mate, I know a heck a lot more than you do. You know? Like... It's like, have you even read the Quran? I'm not so sure. Like that was one thing I noticed was a lot of them wanted to sort of mold me. They wanted me for my skin color, even like specifically saying to my friends, we want a white girl. And I was the only white girl out of all my Muslim friends. So I got shoved around to a lot of different brothers as the potential token. And I was like, what is going on, ladies? Like, can you not see how this is not okay?
The creepy part is they'll do it even after you're married. So they'll be like, oh, like, sister, are you married? Like, super excited about, like, 'cause they found a white girl. Yeah. I'm like, I've been married for 4 years. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, I've had that happen since getting married. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm married. And they still want to have a conversation with you. And I'm like...
And then they're like, oh, but do you know anyone else that's a convert?
Yeah. Or they're gonna woo you over to them or something like that, and you're just gonna drop your current husband and run off with him into the sunset. And it's like, mate, that's not going to happen. Like,
I think that's actually a good red flag also to bring up. Like anyone who's asking specifically, like, yeah, that's a big red flag.
Like sometimes the sisters will come and, you know. And maybe they're trying to be nice because they know that the brother wants this or whatever, but like, please don't be nice in that way.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah. No, and I noticed that I had a sister do that. Yeah, and she's lovely. I like her a lot, but she recommended me to a brother because what he wanted specifically was a white sister. And it took me talking to him and really asking a lot of questions to actually drill down to what, like, that was the whole point of this. You know, it wasn't that he was really looking for a wife or anything like that. He just wanted the status or whatever you want to call it, whatever he was, you know.
Yeah.
To put you on the shelf.
Exactly.
And I think that, like,
to put you on the shelf.
The whole, like, whiteness or whatever, like, some people will try to, like, pull the, oh, it's a preference thing. But if you if you mention, like, that your children, your potential children, it's not a preference. At that point, it's not a preference of how you want your spouse to look to be attracted to them. Like, that's not what a preference is. Preference is, what are you physically attracted to? Like, my preference is a husband that has a beard. I find that attractive. I don't, it doesn't have anything to do with, like, my kids and how they're gonna look.
Yeah,
that's messed up.
No, yeah, I think if he sort of, like, a big red flag for me was if they started to actually focus on my features. Like, I had a number of brothers that would be like your eyes or your skin, or can I see your hair? Like, I had a number of brothers that were like, I want to see your hair. Like, is it blonde? Is it this? And I was like, okay, nope, we're done here. Like, we're totally done because you're fixated on, my, like, those aspects, physical aspects, exactly. You're not, and I try to be like, can we talk about Dean? How about Dean? This thing called Dean.
Right. I think to a certain extent, it's really like how it's phrased and like
it is. Yeah.
How, I think you can kind of like, if you feel like an icky way about it, like we've mentioned previously, like, please don't go forward.
Right. So we're gonna get probably we're nearing 2 hours.
And I'm about to have to
but before we
break my fast
leave,
too.
I just want to ask Sherelle and Almas, what are your guys' thoughts when you listen to these kind of things, I guess, from Fatima and Stephanie? Like, how do you guys feel?
Okay, I'll go first. To be honest, I have some friends that are white sisters, so I'm quite used to a lot of what the sisters are saying. And I just find it interesting that some of the questions that you were saying about, can I see your hair, black sisters get the same question, and it is a fixation.
Oh, wow.
And I'll say to brothers, I'm black, and so my hair is like black people's hair. Can I see it? I was like, go look at someone that doesn't cover in the street. I'm not taking my scarf off. I was like, I'm not taking so I'm like, you walk around the street with your eyes open, and my hair looks like black people's hair. I was like, I don't know why you want to see it, but I want to see its length. And I was like, look, brother, you can't run your fingers through my hair. I'm not white, I'm not Asian. It's not going to happen. If that's what you're looking for.
I mean, I'm white, but if you run your fingers through my hair, I'm going to slap you because my hair will get so tangled.
Yeah, I was like,
it's
look,
curly too, so I'm like, please don't do that.
It's so frustrating, and I don't know. I just think, I don't want to use this word. I won't use that word. I just think it's weird how men ask for a sister that's practicing, as they'll say, but then when they see you, they want to see your hair. What's your hair got to do with your deen? And it just shows you really what they really want. They don't really want a practicing wife.
No.
Yeah, some of them
as you said, they do
they'll say they want a practicing
fetish.
wife, but they're like, I want a certain thing, like.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Almas?
I was just saying they have a fetish, and they have it with white sisters and they have it with black sisters. They just want. I just take it as if a brother asks me to see my hair and I say no, he asks again. I just think he wants something to play with. He doesn't want a wife.
Yeah.
And that for me is a big red flag. And I've had I've had a wali before who he follows the opinion you can show your hair, but I told him I don't show my hair.
Yeah,
he told the brother it'll be okay.
I mean, it's okay if you.
And I was like, no, it's not okay. I'm not showing it. I told you this.
It's okay if the woman agrees.
So I don't know.
And there's a valid opinion, but if you don't agree, and you have to know the context of why they're asking,
And I
get what you're saying too.
Imagine though, I said, what type of man, even if he does believe in that opinion, I said, look at it this way. I could meet a different brother every week if I wanted to talk. And I'm going to take my scarf off every week, 52 weeks of the year. I'm going to take my scarf off to every man that asks. I was like,
exactly.
What does that... I said, if you heard that, you'd be thinking that sister's got no morals and this, that and the other. So don't ask.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they would even ask people from their own culture to take their scarves off. So I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. So I don't know why they think it's okay to ask us.
I think it's because our hair texture is so different than their own culture's hair that.
And beautiful.
Kids' hair. Oh, girl, you know it's beautiful. But people look at my kids' hair, like if it's out, because my kids have natural curly hair, and if I leave their hair out, especially in Hawaii, people will try, like the Asian culture, they try to touch their hair and try to pet them. I'm like, my kids,
Yeah, so weird.
You cannot touch them. Like, no, you can ask and you can admire, but you can't just go run your fingers through a stranger's hair. That's weird. What if I do that to your children?
They smell
have
it.
straight hair?
I've had people smell me, my children.
What?
I was like, black people always smell like coconut. We didn't have coconut on. I said, no, we don't. That's like all these stereotypes people come out with.
I don't even like
I said, we're not wearing coconut. It's so, it's just, and even my little boy, he's very blatant. And he was like, don't smell me. He just said, he goes, don't smell me. Mommy, why are they smelling me? And I was just like, I just pushed, I went, just go over there. It's so, people just, I don't know. They're just like, oh, your hair's, when they do touch it, oh, your hair's soft. And I was like, well, it's hair.
They're surprised. They're surprised. They think it's gonna be like hard and rough and like a bowler pad or something. And I'm like, I take care of my hair. Like,
it's really, it's crazy. But the thing that I feel sorry for is like our children who are going to be hearing and seeing these things in the background and the effect that it will have on them. Especially if our children are from dual heritage, even more, they're going to become like just confused and thinking, like my children, for instance, they're half Asian, so my children have seen and heard people's attitude towards me and towards them, and it differs because my children are quite like, they, apart from their hair, they could pass as being Asian, but they've got curly hair, so they don't look full Asian. But I've had people say to my children, that's not your mum, because she's black.
What?
Oh my god.
Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah, it's my,
like black people can't have mixed children.
Excuse me? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's crazy that, and this is children. Children say this, not even just adults say it, but also we've got children saying it. So it just shows you what these adults, what they're passing on to children. So it shows you what the next generation is going to be like as well. So I think we all need to be, as reverts, converts, we need to be very careful, because we're just not taken seriously as Muslims when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
Everyone wants us to become Muslim. Like when you become Muslim and you're black, everyone loves you. I remember getting free scarves, free books, free everything when I first became Muslim. But then when it came to marriage, those same people were like, yeah, we can't help.
Silent.
No, we don't know anyone. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I can find you someone from your own community. And I'm like, I'm not asking for someone from my own community. I'm a Muslim now, so that's what I'm Muslim.
Wow.
I think sometimes the brothers even in this regard have sometimes harder time too. I've known a lot of convert brothers that have had a really, really hard time to get married.
Because they're assuming that because you're a black brother, you just need to marry a black sister and be okay with that. Like no one's open to marrying their daughter to a black man.
That's not always feasible because, you know, they're like a majority South Asian or majority Arab community. Like, you know, like what are you trying to do? Like tell them to go marry someone who's not Muslim because you don't want to give your daughter?
Right. Okay, guys, so I hate to cut it off here.
I know.
I think we'll have to have like a part 3, inshallah.
It should be like a 20-part series.
But actually,
this is an ongoing subject.
this is like
so much to say.
this is a sneak peek actually into season 2, because inshallah, this is what exactly I'd like to talk about, racism and identity. So this is really good. It's warming us up, inshallah, for season 2. But I think we should, we'll wrap things up. We'll say our salams here. And inshallah, the next live cast will continue part 3. Because I don't think we covered even half of what we wanted to cover. Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
All right. Salam alaikum, guys.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Ramadan Ramadan